We're grateful you've stayed. Time now for the news. Let's start with our first story. The opposition National Democratic Congress has declared its intention to resort to a series of avenues to ensure judicial fairness. The party argues that government is using the court to persecute its members, citing the ongoing cases involving the national chairman of the party, Samuel Ofosu-Ampofo, former Cocoa Board CEO, Dr. Stephen Opuni, among others. Now, General Secretary of the NDC, Johnson Esiedun-Ketia, alleges that the presiding judge in the case of Stephen Opuni versus the Republic, Justice Clemens Jackson Honyenuga, has demonstrated bias against Stephen Opuni, a situation he believes sharply contradicts his tenets. Now, the party has filed a petition with the Commonwealth asking for its intervention.
And so, apart from this, there's a case of Dr. Kisel Atufosin, who has been very persistent in calling government to account for financial malfeasance and making sure that if government does not account for its stewardship, then it will be difficult for the nation to contribute further resources by way of taxation to that government that has declared itself unaccountable to the citizens. From nowhere, charges have been trumped up and put on this honorable member, and is now, before the courts. If you take the case of media practitioners, Commonwealth believes in right to information, freedom of the media, and so on. Now, all the indications about media practice in Ghana is that media is being harassed and clamped down. You have a situation where in one soup, more than 100 radio stations were closed down selectively, because it is the belief that these radio stations were not singing the praises of government. So having stated this, the particulars of our appeal is this: that the actions of the government of Ghana create conditions that threaten Ghana's political stability and further erode our democratic values. It is very unfortunate that after riding on the high horse and banner of a human rights activist, President Nana Addo Dankwa Akufo-Addo has become a democratic despot who brooks no opposition. The petitioner believes that in line with the objectives of the Commonwealth of Nations and the Harare Declaration, it is appropriate that we address this petition to this honorable body. The persecutions, threats, and killings of supporters of members of NDC violate the values and objectives of the Commonwealth and will create conditions that will threaten and jeopardize the peace and security of Ghana. We humbly request that the Commonwealth of Nations, through your good offices, to 1, closely follow the political and human rights situation in Ghana, since the promotion and protection of human rights, democracy, and fundamental freedoms is a core value of the Commonwealth. 2, send a team to investigate the matters raised in particular, and send a team of lawyers, judges, and legal experts to assess the adequacy and quality of the justice being administered to members of the NDC who are facing criminal prosecutions.
Let's take our second story now. And Vice-Chancellor of the Tamale Technical University, Professor Abbas Brima, says the university will create an enabling environment for students to explore possibilities beyond learning and acquiring a certificate. To achieve this, the university is equipping its students with the needed employable skills to make them competitive in the job market. Professor Brima believes the introduction of 20 new courses in the Bachelor of Technology programs and their accompanying Diploma of Technology programs are geared towards this goal.
Speaking at TATU's fourth matriculation ceremony, the Vice-Chancellor said The university has ultra-modern laboratories and workshops that will enhance its program delivery and hands-on training skills.
In many ways, you are the pioneers of many of these innovative and market-driven programs. As a university, we are always striving to introduce programs that will give you the employable skills you need for industry and the world of work. We will soon be taking possession of an ultra-modern laboratories and workshops at the AVIC building, and we are striving for many more that will enhance our program delivery and hands-on skills training.
The Vice Chancellor urged the students to build social networks which would move them into the world.
Self-discipline and effective time management. The university is a place where you build relationships that can be long-lasting. So I urge you to come out of your closets or your shells and build such relationships with colleagues. I also encourage you to cultivate the spirit of discipline. No human endeavor attains the desired success without discipline. Sacrifice your human desires for a better.
Now, Municipal Education Director for Prestia Huni Valley, Vida Kofi, is worried about the high prevalence of adolescent motherhood, especially among junior high school students in the municipality. She says her office is working with Goldfields Ghana Foundation to roll out an adolescent sexual reproductive health and development program to reduce this trend by 30% in the next 5 years. There is more in this report.
Statistics in the Takwa Nsuayem and Prestia Huni Valley municipality of the Western region shows that from January to June 2021, 901 girls became pregnant. Community Affairs and Stakeholders Engagement Manager Goldfields Ghana Limited Daman Mines Abdul Razak Yakubu has revealed. Out of the figure, Prestia Huni Valley recorded 537 pregnancies. Abdul Razak Yakubu, in an interview, said the collaboration of Goldfields Ghana Foundation with the Municipal Education Directorate was relevant to help the young ones to avoid risky behaviors and staying healthy to enable them focus on their studies and also remain in school.
As young boys and girls, they have their own language, they know how to talk to each other, to abstain from acts that can lead to sexually transmitted infections as well as teenage pregnancy. The other angle is the community. If you don't have support from the community, I remember in one of our communities where a young lady was boasting that she is 16 years old and then another person who is 15 has had twins. So she's disappointed and she wants to also have kids at 16 just because they are that. So it's become a sort of a competition. If you have such a norm in a community, it's difficult to change minds. So from the community side, we are working with the assembly members and the queen mothers to educate them to use their various platforms, their births, funerals and all that to talk about the issue of teenage pregnancy to change minds of the young ones.
The Municipal Director of Education, Prestia Huni Valley, Vida Kofi, complained about the high incidence of teenage pregnancies among girls in JHS in the municipality. She suggested that efforts should be made to reduce the trend which was affecting the psychology of teen girls and their bright future.
If we are to give the trend, 2019 we had as many as 45 of our students becoming pregnant, and this was identified during the BECA. 2020, it rose to 69 in total, and 2021, 55. It might marvel you to see the drop. When we realized in 2020 that the figure was rising, we put in an intervention. We managed to get the schools that had more teenage pregnancies. And then the girls' education officer, the SHEP coordinator, and guidance and counseling coordinator, they had a plan. So they went to the schools and offered them sensitization. And I'm very sure that is why in 2021, there wasn't an upsurge, but rather there was a drop. So the sustainability of the program would help us to nurture these children to responsible adults. And so it is our desire that even as it has been initiated, the teachers, the heads, and the students alike will take it seriously.
120 peer educators have been trained from 24 schools in the Daman and Huni Valley Circuit of Education. In Athalia Kwanzaa, Joy News, Western Region.
Now, bread, a popular staple in most homes, has always been traditionally made from wheat flour. How about resorting to other flour sources for bread, like cassava flour, and can there be any health benefits? Now, a research conducted by the Food Science and Technology Department at the Kwame Nkrumah University of Science and Technology has revealed that cassava flour used as bread composite could potentially maintain optimal blood sugar levels. Emmanuel Bright-Kweku of our science desk has more.
A typical breakfast in any Ghanaian home will always have it as the main or complementary carbohydrate source in a meal. A freshly baked bread is best accompanied with beverages like hot chocolate drink, porridges, and sometimes made into omelette toast. Despite bread's nutritional value, its high glycemic index is becoming a worry for many.
High glycemic index foods usually will release sugar into the blood very fast or at a faster rate when consumed as compared to those that are low glycemic index. And people like athletes, for instance, would want high glycemic index foods because they need the energy very quick. But the research has shown that if you consistently take in low glycemic index foods, you stand a chance of living longer, healthier, because high glycemic index foods have been implicated in cardiovascular diseases.
Recent research has revealed incorporating cassava flour as an ingredient for bread could be a game changer in the baking and farming industries. Cassava flour is simply unfermented cassava processed through the milling of dried cassava tubers.
Already, research has shown that our root and tubers could be converted to quality flours that could be incorporated in products that we usually use wheat for. So we had an earlier study that showed that when you add up to 20% high quality cassava flour to wheat, you can make quality bread similar to 100% wheat. So that was on the recipe. And this recipe has been developed, and we thought it has a lot of benefits.
Consumers were like, cassava is supposed to be starchy and it might have the potential to even be high glycemic index food. So we had to check as scientists. It had to be normal, of good health. And then we conducted their tests. So we fed them, on certain days we fed them the bread with water. And then we were measuring their blood glucose levels, and at 15-minute intervals for the first hour and 30-minute intervals for the second hour. And then we did some analysis. And then we realized that the more you increase the substitution of cassava flour in bread, the lower the glycemic index becomes. So there was a direct relationship between substituting the cassava flour and the glycemic index of the bread in the consumer.
The food researchers confirm bread made from high-quality cassava flour will improve cassava value chain and ultimately better the economic livelihoods of rural farmers.
But then we wanted to know what are the other advantages. Of course, we know it will, if we are to implement it, it will create jobs because more facilities are going to be established to process these cassava into high-quality cassava flour, and then we are going to get more money for farmers, and then it's going to create jobs along the value chain of cassava.
Emmanuel Bright-Kweku reporting.
Well, we're in a new month. We call it Ghana Month. Let's do some stories related there. And cane basket weaving is a popular Ghanaian vocation which can be traced back to pre-colonial times. And the skills needed to create beautiful and useful baskets could take many years to master. But did you know that each cane basket had a unique name? Anita Sewa Ajoga explores the beauty and the business of the cane basket weaving industry.
Antiata, a cane basket weaver in the Ashanti region, has special names for her cane baskets based on their shapes and designs.
This basket is designed like the number 8, so it's called 8-8 basket. This is also called the cocoa basket because it's shaped like the cocoa pod. This is also shaped like the iron. That's why it's called the iron basket. We also have the bamboo basket. It's made of bamboo. This is also called the net basket.
The designs, according to her, attract patrons, mostly foreigners, to purchase most of her products.
Foreigners really patronize my products, especially the furniture.
With little or no formal education, the cane basket weaving business has provided job opportunities for the youth. Under the tattered canopy is 34-year-old Baba, a footballer, now a cane weaver. Baba tells me quitting football is one of the best decisions he took because the cane business is lucrative.
This business has since been my source of income. It helped me foot the bill for my wedding.
82-year-old Cheba for a cane weaver for many years is encouraging the youth to venture into the business.
The youth do not want to venture in business. This business is very lucrative. They should try it.
A lot of energy and time goes into making a beautiful cane basket. All artisans need is patronage of the locally made products like their beautiful cane basket to encourage local enterprises. For Joy News, Anita Sewa Ajoga reporting.
Let's talk more about Ghana. And the Ahanta language spoken in the Western region is one of the languages identified as one at risk of extinction, as many are unable to write or speak it. Through songs, a group is trying to keep the language in the minds and on the lips of people, especially those within the area. Justice Beidou traveled to Takoradi to meet the people behind the choir.
This choir is trying to keep a language that is on the brink of death alive. The Apua Youth Choir, founded by young men and women in this community just on the outskirts of Takoradi. This song they are rehearsing in the Ahanta language means God is the only one we know and He is all we have.
Growing up in the locality, seeing my people or the grown-ups speaking Ahanta, it was great. Has no measure, has no... Our children are speaking English more now than it was yesterday. My name is Felix Kofiele. I am the Executive Director of the Apuan Youth Choir.
Felix and his friends write new songs themselves and also translate songs from other languages into Ahanta for the choristers to learn.
Because people don't really know that Takrade is Ahanta, we intend not to use the deepest version of Ahanta, but use what we normally call the Ahanta Fante. So that is the first trick, to try to use the Ahanta Fante language, to try to form something which people in Takrade or its environs can easily relate to. That will gradually bring the interest. We were not taught Ahanta when we were kids. So, especially when you get the language, you want to turn them up into the language itself. It's quite difficult.
Portia Amwa is originally not Ahanta, but has lived in this community for 29 years. She was part of the people who started this choir, and through rehearsals like this, now speaks and understands the language.
Though we are in Ahanta, but we don't learn the Ahanta. We learn Fancy. So I don't know even the alphabet of the... I didn't know then. But when I came to AYC, they've been teaching us because of the song.
It's a Sunday, and like every other Sunday, Apuan Youth Choir performs at one church or the other, serenading worshippers in the language of their birth. The Ahanta language, pronounced originally as Ayenda, is spoken by the Ahanta people who occupy the land in between the Proa and the Ankobra rivers, including Sekendi Takoradi, the Western Regional Capital. They are bordered by the Nzima, Wassa, and Fanti people to the west, north, and east, respectively.
We can't preach nor become a minister, but through the music that we sing, we can sell our language far. You can love a song, not necessarily understanding the words in them, but the rhythm and the composition itself will make you love to sing that song. I remember songs like Me Dark Way Nama. We do sing those songs in church, but we don't understand. So if we are able to sing with Ahanta, we can penetrate the world with the language, and people will love it. Especially our own people will love that. Hey, people are speaking or singing in my own language. Then I don't have to hide.
Like many of Ghana's lesser-known languages, Ahanta is not taught in schools. The young men and women behind the choir hope that their little efforts here would help change that. Justice Baidu, Joy News, Abuan, in the Western region.
Beauty in the Ahanta language, and throughout this month we'll be bringing you such brilliant stories in terms of what we stand for as Ghanaians. Thank you for staying. Up next we have the news review. That'll be coming your way shortly. Do stay, don't you go anywhere. Hi there, thanks for staying, and we get into the newspapers now, but a good point to start off when it comes to that living standard series that you just saw there. So people with real life situations in these harsh economic times. We're joined by energy analyst Kojo Poku, who is our guest. Mr. Poku, a very good morning to you.
Good morning. How are you?
I'm very well. How about you?
I'm surviving. Woke up and by God's grace, we are alive. So why not?
Brah, you are surviving. If you are
Eddie,
okay.
When the fuel price goes up, everybody buys fuel. So I mean, it's worried. So that one is survival.
Ayo, when some of you are saying adding, and to wait, for those of you who don't understand the chi, I see, he said he was basically surviving. And I tried to find out from him if he was surviving, then what would some of us be doing? And he's saying that, well, the economic times are what they are. This might just slip my mind, Kojo Poku. So let me quickly bring it in before we talk about the conditions or the standards of living. Are you aspiring to be president in 2024?
Yes.
Are you going to contest?
I'm cultivating the idea, yes. And I have started work consulting the grassroots to see if it's something that I can do.
Right. You've taken note of the CDDs. You've taken note of the CDDs reports and all the money politics and all of that is expected, and you're still willing to go into this. Do you have the wherewithal to chill with the big boys?
It's a very simple approach. Politics is about ideas, and it's about trying to tell people what you can do for this country. Politics is not about what you can give people to vote for you for this country. My approach is very simple. I'm going to go to the grassroots and tell them what I can do to change the standards at the party level and also to change and transform the country at the national level. Okay. I don't really have anything to give. You know, there are logistics that you need. Yes, everybody running for such high office should be able to come up with logistics. Right. Even if you are to visit 275 constituencies and there are chiefs in all these constituencies, you would have to pay homage. And when you go to the palace, you have to take schnapp. So
in other words, you're willing to fulfill the financial obligations. What will your party be called?
Well, no, I'm not willing to fulfill the 100 million they are talking about. I'm willing to do the logistics, but I'm not willing to find money to go and give to people.
What will your party be called? What will your party be called?
I'm a member of the MPP. I thought you knew that. I'm running on the ticket of the MPP.
Okay, I thought you were going to, but in terms of presidential ambitions, you want to contest in the MPP's primaries? Is that what you're going for?
Yes, okay. That's what I want to do. Yeah.
All right.
Look, clearly, let me give you an example. If I stand as an independent in Ashanti region, because of my popularity and the kind of person I am in that region, I will be taking votes from the MPP, and I don't think it's right.
Okay. Right, so let's look at some of what is happening now. I was just referring to you to our standard of living, segment that we've put together. And real life issues, people are complaining about the fact that maybe they are taking 1 square meal or maybe half of a square meal now and all of that. People are not going to the salon as frequently because the economic times are dire. Tied to that, we have teacher unions also wading into this bit about wanting more. The finance minister, Ken Ofori-Atta, has accepted, he's conceded that these things that are coming through from UTAG and the rest are genuine, yet there are no funds. The teacher unions now say they want COLA. They want an increment in their condition of living allowances. And this statement that came to us recently is signed by NAT, NAGRA, CCTGH, and TEU. It appears more and more pressure every day being piled on government. How does a Ken Ofori-Atta administration deal with something like this?
Well, like I've always said, government is the biggest employer. And if you are not careful, what you take with the left, you give it back with the right. It's very simple. We need to fix what makes up basic expenditure for all Ghanaians. The reason we are poor and the reason we don't have enough money is because what is called your salary, okay, when you are paid a salary, you now take your basic obligation. What are our basic obligation? Our basic obligation is utilities, groceries for the house, school fees for your kids if you have any, transportation to work, and taking care of yourself. Okay, now when you take all these basic expenditure from your salary, the bottom line is that what is left? If there is none left, then obviously you don't have money to do anything else, so you are poor. Now, what some of us have been saying is that government is supposed to look at some of these things. Today, I mean, even phone calls, data for internet, all these things have become basic expenditure. So if as a government, you allow the economy to run in such a way that utility is high, school fees are high because people no longer take their kids to the basic education, which is government education, which is free, but everybody has to take their kids to private education and they are charging dollars. Okay, so those are the factors that's affecting parents that don't have extra. Imagine if the basic education was working well. Now you have all these teacher unions asking for more money, but guess what? For the basic education, in the last 3 years, you've not given them any textbooks to teach. They are teaching ICT without computers. So if you have now made the government schools a place that parents can take their pupils, then the parent and the F-cube can have a savings. But because we've not fixed those, and we are trying to spend money on things like STEM, which for me is not necessary, okay? You are now doing that to yourself as Ministry of Finance because you are spending money on things that does not address the problem of the middle class or the one trying to get by. Those are the problems. Everybody will still come and ask you for more unless you fix the basics, utility, groceries. Look, Consumer Protection Act. We've been trying to pass that act for how many years now?
Right.
But Consumer Protection Act can save people money, okay? People will bring quality products. I don't need to go and buy a bulb, and in 2 days it goes out and I go and buy a bulb again. I can't go to a shop and buy a product. I come home, it's not good, I can't take it back. There's no law governing these things. People bring inferior goods to Ghana and sell it to me and you at a very exorbitant price because there's nothing that checks that.
So we have all of these dynamics at play, and then we have a barrage of other issues. We have rocketing fuel prices, transport fares ticking up 15%, threats of more. And in fact, the 15% is not technically 15% because they roll over. Yesterday, I did the mathematics when the VIP, Mr. Frimpong Manso, was interacting with me. There's about a 25, 26 peswa increment on what they've added to make it 30 cedis. So they always round off, and it's always at the cost of the person who is, boarding these vehicles. But it gets even more interesting because in the midst of all of this, the cedi is now the worst performing currency on the African continent. The dalasi or the naira, all of these are trading better than the cedi. How much of a complication does that pose to us, especially in these times?
Okay, so you deal with things you can and leave the things you cannot control to basically be controlled by the international market. We don't control petrol prices, so that one you can't do anything about it. What you control, like I said, are the fundamental way of improving the lives of the people. The cedi, yes, we control. For the last 10, 15 years, what have we done as a nation? Everybody has done a talking shop on how we should eat the things we grow and eat made in Ghana and blah, 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 blah. It's only a talking shop. Nobody is really doing much about it. Recently, we've done the one district, one factory. It's going well, but it's not going as fast. It is not really taking effect to how it should take effect. So as a result, you are now having a higher dependability on foreign exchange for companies. Look, there is this MTN situation, and I honestly don't know why the government is encouraging that. Okay? MTN need huge amount of dollar to send out on every given time. There is this issue of companies like Fan Milk, other companies who are doing things important. Look, Fan Milk imports milk into Ghana. So imagine the foreign exchange that Fan Milk needs to send foreign exchange out to bring milk into the country. Meanwhile, what does it take to have a 10-year plan to have a dairy farm that can produce milk for Fan Milk? What does it take? Okay, so it is really looking at a situation that what do we need to fix the fundamental problem? For me, I have always said that deal with the things you can. With crude oil, we don't produce as much. And if we do produce as much, our refinery is sitting there, nothing. So even if we have the crude oil, we still can't refine it.
Right.
So the problem is this. Government should look at the things they can control and look at a long-term plan. Knee-jerk approach doesn't help us.
All right. Let's look at the papers and some of the stories in there. We'll resolve Utah impasse. President promises, of course. We know the institutions also have a mind of their own in terms of the votes they've been casting. And at the University of Ghana, for example, you know, on pain of disobeying the court order and maybe creating a rift between teachers and the authorities, management, those are teachers as well. They are back in the classroom, but another strike is imminent. ECOWAS condemns military invasion of Ukraine. And speaking of Ukraine, there's also that story tied to it on page 5. Anger at treatment of Africans fleeing Ukraine. And Nigeria's government has condemned reports that its citizens and those of other African countries have been stopped from leaving war-torn Ukraine. Now, Kojo, can you imagine this? I was brought close to tears yesterday listening to the BBC. Because guess what? They were talking about the fact that Ukrainians and other people of, you could say, white coloring or Caucasian-looking people were being allowed through, you know, to other countries' borders, passing through the borders. But some people with melanin, like we have, black people, were being restricted. Now, the white people were passing through even with their pets, and black people were being held behind. And imagine that, an animal going through, and you, a human being, you know, being kept at bay. It wrenched my heart. I don't know. And what is your reaction to that, in addition to how much we've done so far in terms of the evacuation effort of Ghana?
Well, war is not a good thing. And most of our young ones in Ukraine are there studying. Some of them are there just trying to make ends meet. For me, I just think that we should have, when we knew the war was going to happen, we should have gotten people out quicker. You don't wait for war to happen, because we saw the amassing of military, and it went on for 2 weeks, and that was enough warning for anybody to say that, look, get out. There was no way Putin was not going to go into Ukraine. It was something that it was a matter of when is he going to go into Ukraine. Again, the bureaucracy at the Ministry of Foreign Affairs did not get into action fast enough. We shouldn't have waited for the military to enter and the war to start to try and get people out. That was wrong, and that is wrong. The problem at the borders, I mean, I don't really have the facts, but if that's what is going on, it's very unfortunate. That part of the world are not that welcoming to black people. I've been to Moscow, and I went to Moscow, and you get to the airport, you can tell. I mean, they have a general policy of every black person that comes in is detained. Unless they can now further check. For me, I was lucky enough, the embassy in Russia was coming to, the ambassador has sent an envoy to come and meet me at the airport. So when they came in, then they let me go because I was a guest of the embassy. But that part of the world, I mean, they don't treat brown people. And you're saying black people. I think now the correct word to say is brown people. They don't treat brown people very well. But what I would say is this. We should know how to play diplomatic in international politics. I mean, what is going on in Ukraine and Russia is war. And before war, there is enough notice, enough intelligence for us Ghanaians, and the Ghana government should know that this was going to happen. It's unfortunate that we've left the kids there and we are now trying to get them out.
All right. ECOWAS condemns military invasion of Ukraine. That is also in the middle spread of the Ghanaian Times newspaper. The Daily Graphic capturing practically the same stories that the Ghanaian Times newspaper captures. But let me run this by you, lest I forget. It feeds into this entire bit about leadership discourse. I'm sure you followed bits of that Solidaire Ghana lecture and the likes of Professor Tuguba and some of what they said, that if we do not act quickly, we may have a coup on our hands. And coup here, I say it in the proper respect, a coup d'etat, so to speak. And mind you, I am not suggesting it. These are words that have been used. And it has to do with the fact that Ghana is broke, radically broke, if you like. And a broke economy is one of the justifications for all coup d'etats. We've seen it in different parts of Africa in the past. Even now, it's being used as justification. How do you react to that? Is that blunt wisdom, or is it a picture we shouldn't be willing to even talk about?
Well, since you said blunt wisdom, let me use your words and just say blunt stupidity. Anybody who wants to entertain that thought, I mean, has not lived in this country from 79 till God knows when we got out of it. If people want to go back sleeping at 6 o'clock, that's fine. I mean, I don't have, let the youth, I think for me, I mean, I have a very simple
These are people, mind you, the speakers at this event are people who have lived through this era. These are people who know the law as well, who are doyens of the law. In fact, Professor Tukuba, a dean of the dean of the University of Ghana Faculty of Law.
My dear, we keep saying that people have lived through this era. Let's find out where they were during that time. Some of these people were in the villages. They were not in the city centers like some of us, and saw what was happening. Some of them did not witness what was happening. Okay, so they probably heard it and thought that I have not seen it, so it's not as bad. Look, if you witness what happened in 79 and 81, nobody, me, I witnessed it firsthand. So I would never talk of it.
Does not witnessing it firsthand, I have been through war experiences, does not witnessing it firsthand take away from the reality of the fact that across the world, economic matters tend to breed, some of these matters. You remember the Arab Spring? It took one person, pouring some petrol product over himself and setting himself ablaze. That was what triggered it, on the back of what? Harsh economic times and so many other things.
Well, I honestly don't think that harsh economic times on its own is a reason for those revolutions. I always think that there's international pressures beneath. The Arab Spring was really the Western pressures beneath to get those people to clear certain people they didn't want to clear. What did Arab Spring got to do with what happened in Syria? What did Arab Spring got to do with what happened in Egypt and Libya? You can't tell me that people in Libya were under economic hardship. Then what is it today? Let's just oppose what Gaddafi was and what Libya was to what Libya is today. So anybody who wants those kind of movements should look at the pre and the after. Let's look at what Libya is today. Is it any better than what it was when Gaddafi was there? No, it's not. Has the killing stopped? No, it's not. Are people more poorer? Yes, they are. Look, go into history in Ghana, and yes, people have used those sentiments to always get people to come onto the streets. But the alternative, which is military rule, has never solved our problem.
All right, let's look at the Finder newspaper. WAEC releases 2021 BEC results. There's also a special desk created at KIA for travelers using the Ghana card. Elevy will expand tax base for sustained development, reduce debt burden. I was listening recently to the majority leader, Oseiche Mensah-Bonsu, who was pointing out that maybe the sort of fierce, vehement pushback that the e-levy has seen was not anticipated by their side. That if they had foreseen, it's a tax, but if they had foreseen that there would be so much, maybe they would have done more groundwork. And still we're in the throes of it. I've heard, I think the first deputy speaker as well say that they are not letting go of it. They will come back to it. How do you think this e-levy can finally see the light of day? Looking at the Adwoa-Safo situation, looking at the fact that we hear, and there's no smoke without fire, that a number of MPs on both sides are not so well and all of that. Is it practical? Should government start looking away from the e-levy?
Look, when the parliamentary situation got worse, government decided to now do consultation. Government still is not convinced. If you listen to what the president said, if the president has the number, he will still pass the e-levy, regardless of what everybody have said. The president still believes, after all tax experts have said that, look, the e-levy does not expand the tax base, and it does not. I don't know where the politicians don't get this. I am surprised the majority leader, after all that he's heard, is trying to push something that Ghanaians have said that, look, this does not solve our problem. It double tax a lot of people. It multiple tax a lot of people. Okay? So why do you want to now multiple tax individual for one set of money that they have? Why do we want to do that? Look, the e-levy, I am a proponent for tax revenue. We need to collect more tax as a nation. The e-levy in its current form does not do that. It does not expand the tax net. It only does it in a small fraction. the way that we need to bring everybody on board, it does not do that. So let's not kid ourselves. If the parliamentarians who get the numbers, they will tell all of us to F off and they will pass it. The reason they can't pass it is not because we don't like it or we don't understand it. They just don't have the numbers. And I have said this day and day, there are a lot of things that for us as civil society, we've always told government, this policy is not good, this agreement is not good. And they've gone ahead and passed it with the numbers that they have without listening to some of us. So it's not that they care, they don't. I mean, if we are to practice democracy, then they should listen. Because we Ghanaians overwhelmingly have said that, look, this Elevy at its current stage, one, does not address the problem you want to address. So what is the difficulty with that?
And speaking of this Kabi bit, just to wrap on these 2 points very, very quickly, Kojopoku, there's the issue, it just came to mind, of the Fomena MP. The driver started for him to be not contested or to not be contested in election 2024. That is, even in the primary, so that he stands as the candidate of the MPP. Mind you, he's an independent candidate. He's associated with the MPP's caucus in Parliament, helping them to become the majority. You know the situation. He left the MPP, became independent, won, and now he's joined their caucus. Do you support that versus democracy? Let everybody go through the process. Do you support that for the Fomena MP?
I don't support that for anybody. I don't support that thing at all. That theory is rubbish. That thing where people want to be not contested, that's not democracy. That's selected justice. Why is that democracy?
But why do you call it rubbish? I mean, it is to ensure that the fortunes of the party are maintained, are protected.
No, but so that everybody can make a case for that. Look, we've been doing this selectively, and that is what led to independent candidates. Okay? We've been doing that for selected individuals. Why can't we make that for the 275? So we'll get to a point where out of the 275 MPs, maybe 100 of them are indispensable in our mind, so they are protected and not contested. It's wrong. If they are that popular, you see, this is what the democracy is. If he is popular, he is a people's representative. He represents his people. People think that they come to parliament and because of parliamentary work, they should be maintained. No, that is not what you do. You represent your people. Go to your people, let your people admit you, then come back to parliament. If not, you lose. It's simple.
All right.
So, have you seen the problems in the grassroots with just picking of forms? People just don't want to have a democracy. If we don't want a democracy, let's throw the democracy away and do what we want.
Okay.
But let's not, you see, this thing comes on every 4 years, and for me, it's very upsetting.
Right.
Because that thing of he should go unopposed. Oh, because of this reason, he should be contested. No, I'm sorry. If you are able to go to the constituency, okay, and at the constituency level, get a general consensus of the people, then he stands and he gets 100%.
All right. Just a quick bit on this. My GDP growth better than Mohammed's. That's according to Nana Dodonko Akufo-Addo. And that's on the front page of the Daily Guide newspaper. I listened, I watched people, react to this on social media yesterday in respect of what the president had been saying, still referencing Mohammed's economy versus his, and it was savage. Let me just leave it at that. How do you respond to this? The fact that people are talking about the price of bread, the price of kenke. We can't go to the salon like you saw in our Living Standard series and all of that. But Mr. President is still referencing the former president and his economic performance.
Well, you see, I think fiscal policies and these numbers means little to the average Ghanaian. And I think we are in times that people who advise the president and the Ministry of Finance should really find a message for Ghanaians. Talking about GDP is not really going to hit home with Ghanaians now because of all the growth you are experiencing. Bear in mind, if you are at a certain stage of development and you went to zero because of COVID, going back to the stage where you were will be much faster than it would have been if you are kept there. So yes, Ghana is doing well in terms of growth, where we went to in COVID and we are trying to recover. So the growth is better. But I don't think that it's a message. GDP and all these things are no longer a message for Ghanaians. Ghanaians are not looking at those things because that has not helped them. Ghanaians are looking for things that will help them. What will help them? Okay, not having textbooks for kids for 3 years is what will help them.
All right. Kojo, we'll have to leave it here. Always interesting sharing thoughts with you with that wry smile on your face. But thank you so much and do have a lovely day, Kojo.
Thank you very much and have a nice day too, my brother.
All right. That's how we wrap it up as far as the news review is concerned. There's a lot more coming your way as there are a raft of bans on Russia in sports. More news with Muftau Nabila Abdullahi. That's up next.
Anecdotally, Kumasi Asante Kotoko can be proud of 10 million supporters. Well, Chief Executive Officer of the club, Nanayan Ponsa, has thrown a challenge to only 100,000 of those supporters to give him $100 each, and he will give them a stadium within 18 months. And also, the pressure that was mounting from Poland and Czech Republic and co. have forced FIFA and UEFA to suspend Russia from all footballing competition indefinitely. And also, Emmanuel Gameboy Tego, he'll be in action on April 9. He's been speaking about his fight against Ruan Garcia. He says that should he lose that fight, he will retire from boxing. We've got this and many more here on AM Sports with me, Muftau Nabila Abdullahi. Welcome. We start with Ghana Premier League stories, where Great Olympics got off to a flying start in the second round of the Ghana Premier League on Monday as they beat Real Tamale United 2-1. Former Ghana under-17 forward Ibrahim Sule scored in added time as the Dede boys moved into second place on the league log.
Asamoah. Free kick taken straight to the... And that's the opening goal for Great Olympics. Great Olympics have opened the deadlock. George Asamoah.
Yeah, the ball takes a bounce, but he has absolutely no excuse because he's under no pressure here. Should be getting hold of the ball, but drops it. George Asamoah is on hand off the post and back onto him, but redirected into the back of the net. An early lead.
Watch his free kick. Headed down by Abe. Decent drive. Headed down by Abdullahi. Watch his ball in and it goes straight to Stephen Kwaku. Victor Edu, does he get an equalizer? Great save from Stephen Kwaku. That was a power drive from Edu.
Just looking at that pass and look at that pass through the channel there. Victor Edu onto his right foot there, just right down the laces, and goalkeeper is making a very good catch.
RTU looking dangerous. It's a penalty for Great Real Tamale United. For RTU, he steps forward and he makes it 1-1. Cool and calm. Great finish. It's Olympics 1. RTU 1. His third goal of the season in 15 games.
And the coolest man on the pitch was him, slotting the pass. The goalkeeper in an area where he couldn't even dream of diving to. When it's area.
RTU desperately defending Philip Saki. That's Olympics get the winner, and yes, they have it. Ibrahim Sule coming off the bench. It looked like everything was going against Anawoka, and now his substitute has got the second for him.
It's a steal, it's a big steal that they've stolen it here. Right on the death, Olympics. No hints of an offside here, Sule.
Let's hear from the coaches of Great Olympics and Real Tamale United, Anawaka and Shaibi Ibrahim Tanko, who has been sharing constructing thoughts on the outcome of the game.
I feel too happy, and before then I think I have to give thanks to the Almighty Father, then to my players for the hard fought game that we have to win the match at the end of it all.
did you see it coming? Because in the second half, RTU put in everything and they got the penalty and they got the equalizer as well. Did you see it coming that you could sneak it through?
Honestly, I knew it's going to be a difficult game. And I knew the way they were going to play in the whole game. I know they're going to sit back in the first half. Then in the second half, they will open up. And that was exactly what they did. And it was pressure on us until they had their penalty. I also did some changes which I knew definitely those I'm bringing in are going to fight. But all the same, it is the doing of the Lord. So I say thanks to the Almighty for giving me this sweet victory.
Well, you are on that sweet victory. You are now just second on the table, and that should order well for you going into the other games coming up.
Yes, exactly. That's what I want, and that's where I want to be. So it is my intention and my mind and readiness to win this match to get to the second position, which I have got. So I'm really happy to be at that position. It's left with the other matches, which I'm going to prepare for them.
As expected, I mean, our wishes were not met. For that matter, I mean, we have to take it that way.
Now, would you say that your players are showing some form of fatigue? Because in the first half, there seems to be some lethargic showing from the players, and then you came back strongly in the second half. You got an equalizer, but then, you left it all again.
Yeah, I wouldn't attribute it to that, except that luck eluded us. That's how I attribute it to. Now, because we had so many chances, we handled the ball so many times. If I don't know your statistics, but I should think we were the better side as far as the game was concerned.
Now you're just a point above relegation, and you still have some more matches to go. All right, though. But how difficult does it make the situation for you now?
Yeah, it's really difficult, but we shall scale through.
Now, during this transfer window, you did some business. You brought in some players, including a former national youth team player, played a winning team for a while, so that's called Shafiq Muntari, but he's still not in the team yet. What is the real reason behind that?
I mean, there was a technical hitch. I mean, from our side and the FA. So that is our bottleneck.
Any idea how long it will take for him to even get into the team?
Yeah, we wouldn't be able to tell, but probably this week, by the close of this week, we shall get him.
Now let's talk about the upcoming Super Cup. It is a match involving Kumasi Asante Kotoko and Accra Hearts of Oak, and chairman of the Ghana League Clubs Association, Kuje Fiano, has been defending their decision to continually use the two teams for this fixture, despite calls from other clubs demanding that they are given opportunity to compete for that trophy, including a club like Great Olympics, which just saw them gone by.
We are lucky enough that the presidency and Galka have agreed to use the President's Cup to roll off activities marking the 65th anniversary of Ghana's independence. So if we want to present something worthwhile to the president, we can only present our El Clasico to him.
Yeah, because...
And also draw his mind to the fact that, yes, in as much as we want to build a Black Stars, we need to empower the local league. I kept asking, a budget of 25 million for the Black Stars, AFCON World Cup. I can imagine what $5 million could do for the league. We want to have a chat with our old man. As we watch the game, we will chat. It's like you want to woo a beautiful lady. You invite her to the pub, you sit around. So the old man will be there on Friday. I will have the opportunity to sit. I will plead with him. As we watch the game, we chat. Old man, there's a need for you to throw the searchlight on the local game. And it's so amazing. When you meet the politicians, they always refer to the Babayaras, the Mfums, the Agrifins, the Abidipeles, the Tony Awas. These were not players who came from heaven. They were Ghanaian players. And we believe that we can produce a lot more. So Friday, and the exciting thing is that there was this Okujeto report that said Has and Kotoko should not play in the evenings. A lot of water has passed under the bridge. We think that we should break that ice.
Let's talk about Kubasi Asante Kotoko, and their Chief Executive Officer, Nana Yamponsa, says he needs committed 100,000 supporters to contribute $100 each, and he will build them a stadium within 18 months.
And I got 10 million supporters, 10 million. I don't need 10 million supporters. I need 100,000 committed supporters. And I'll build a stadium for Kotoko. Seminya. 100,000 committed supporters in there. Minimum managing 100,000 committed supporters in there. Buenedit. Seminya 100,000 committed supporters. Ediomu Dimba say committed to Kotoko. We will build the stadium within 18 months. 100,000 supporters. Say na beso mutua. Omutua just $500 every month. No, one of $100. So mutua na ba ku pese boom. Yes. One also mutua is $100. $100. Okay, $100 is here be 680. Keep it in dollars. $100. Multiply by 100,000. 18 months we stadium. Yes. Calculate, it's 10 million. I will be in fancy camera supporters. Yes. Let's calculate. $100 multiplied by 100,000. They're saying $10 million. Yeah. I don't need 1 million Kotoko supporters. I need 100,000 committed Kotoko supporters to give me $100.
And Russian football clubs and national teams have been suspended from all competitions by FIFA and UEFA after the country's invasion of Ukraine. The World and European football governing bodies say Russia will be banned until further notice. There's more in this report by my colleague, Elon Benaya. The
move comes after the International Olympic Committee recommended that Russian and Belarusian athletes and officials are banned from any organized international competitions. It means the Russian men's team will not play their World Cup playoff matches next month, and the women's team have been banned from this summer's European Championship. Sparta Moscow have also been kicked out of the Europa League, while UEFA has ended its sponsorship with Russian energy giant Gazprom. FIFA and UEFA have decided to take action after Russia, supported by Belarus, launched a military invasion of neighboring Ukraine last Thursday. Prior to FIFA and UEFA's decision, Poland, Sweden, and Czech Republic had already issued a joint statement refusing to travel to Russia for the 2022 World Cup playoffs next month. The three nations were in Part B alongside Russia, competing for one of Europe's final 3 places at the World Cup in Qatar next winter. Poland were due to face Russia in Moscow in the first semi-final on March 24, with Sweden and Czech Republic also going head-to-head in Stockholm in the other game later that day.
To some boxing now, where Emmanuel Gameboy Tego says he will retire from boxing if he loses his upcoming fight against Ryan Garcia. Speaking to Joy Sport ahead of the bout slated for April 9, the former IBO lightweight champion said he has no message for Ghanaians if he fails to win this fight.
Nathaniel, you know something about me. When you don't know anymore about me. Me no, omudi omweni papa share boxing no, omu no omudi mechi. Omu for omweni papa en share boxing no, omu na omu kan ma asem negative. Upa sese antokwa no amekoko no. Nipa no ni mo say like mekoko no, me na me champion, na me na me okay, na me na me boom your opponent no. Ye kun wi awo ubeti say we ni onye din, we wo say. They be I say me onye din, maku 33 fighters, always me prove me wrong. And see, I don't know the reason why they be a man for doubt to me no. And sometimes nipa no bet me who say we ntimi me I was you, we give me ntimi no. 80 fans no mo reality o mo di mechi no mo no mo nim de wo me mu e no mo nim de like metimi aye nti sometimes me appreciate me fans ketu anu maybe e bia fans no o mo ye fake no mo bra crap o mo no mbe ma ye bebo me no eti me minimum say we me fans na we old fans I know you minimum mo ye fake o mo ba be join no because who need option Uncrofo no yabu obia. Ghana no me pe na embu me. Omu pe se embu me keke. Mo fia mo to ayi mi na ke. Ayi me ne keke. No ja me pra. Cause man ayi mi bia ne no ba na fans ni mana. Onyo yi mi. Mi boxing ni mi ke ma keko. No money ano ka yi mi npa boxing. Ka yi mi npa boxing because imbe no ni mama ke fans say.
If you're saying that if you lose this bout, you're out. You're not fighting again.
No ni mi ke ba ke ka yi mi. Inle no ni ma ke fans. Inle no ni mi ba ma ke family ke nya mi me. Ke nya ndo me. E wo ipa.
That's a big statement to make.
Yeah, because ka yi mi npa because inle no ni ke yi mi we be do twa ke imbe no ni mi to ma achieve don. E was anima pa mama join ke if stores, if apartment few ke mama o mo alo ma amo ke shito ke ni bi ni mana ke fine because I don't think I can sani.
But you know that in boxing is also a case of 3 results. It's a win, a loss, or a draw. So there's a possibility that either of these could happen, and anything can also happen in the ring. And so it's a big statement to make, considering that you still have youthfulness, you're still fit, and you can still fight. So if in your likely instance that you lose this bout, you know, you can still continue. Why would you want to stop?
Because J. Ryan Garcia Sane.
I see.
What do you mean? You know, me expect yen alone, no me to ma achieve boxing. Me feel like Sane Ryan Garcia stop me a bell. If I can stop me a bell, no decision ma take no just anima pa boxing because if I say no ni manima fe. Le Ryan Garcia lenche e choose me shamele aka me njo me. What do you mean? Me no money no pressure be no. Mini yo ake ma chule ma. Boy me to e ba ma mi na kan chule boy. Ona no money no. Only no ni me promise Ghanaian spare. You will no penny care by a no power boxing because you will buy a champion for a champion. Too much less than any word there left in champion position and fine. She mini magic a bear magic obey ni game mini. Touch on ten.
Game boy.
Touch on ten.
Game boy.
Touch on ten.
Game boy.
Say my name again.
Game boy.
And this is how we wrap up AM Sports here with me, Muftar Abla. You can head on to myjoyonline.com and read some more sports stories.
Some 36 minutes off the top of the hour, and we meet at this point to discuss those topical matters. We call them the big stories. Thank you for joining us on the AM show. I'm here with Alhassan Suini, Member of Parliament for Tamale North, and Dr. Stephen Amwa, Member of Parliament for Inshayaso in the Ashanti region. Both of them join us as we talk about the speaker, that tussle between the speaker and the deputy, the first deputy for that matter, Ghana's CD rating on the continent in recent times, and other matters of concern. Gentlemen, I'll start with the Member of Parliament for Tamale North, Honourable Suini. A very good morning to you, sir.
Good morning, my brother. Hope you're well.
You're doing well.
You're looking sharp, like you.
Oh, I was just about to. You took the wind out of my sail. I was just about to say same for you and say when would you Dabane these nice outfits. Hey, Asemo.
Micro impact of good governance. I don't see
the micro impact of good governance on his life,
Yes.
But he's not acknowledging it.
Of course, definitely. I mean, once in opposition, just like MPP would have done. I'm not going to comment on that. I think people know better. It wasn't easy buying fuel on my way here, though.
And I see.
But is it Kufado's fault? When it's hit over $100, let's be realistic. Who deregulated it so the government cannot subsidize?
But whose fault is it? Who would have to put in place the proper mechanisms to ensure that we regulate our fuel products better so that we don't keep seeing these increments every time, practically every time. This year alone, you know how many times we've increased prices, right?
I'm saying,
and you know the percentages. And let me just add. Since I know you get into it. Let me just add. In neighboring countries, in a place like Sierra Leone, non-oil producing, and all of that, in 4 years, and I have not one, 3 people who live there, experts who are working there, Ghanaians, and they tell me in the last 4 years, the increments have been like once every for every year, basically, and that on the back of that is not my concern. The fact is, why not implement it here when these are happening? I mean, you don't need a rocket scientist to tell you that.
To other person. For 7 years now, we've never crossed $100 per barrel. You know that. 7 years now.
Right.
World market price is not. Let me finish.
Let's do this one at a time. Let's do this one at a time.
The deregulation, which has made it quite difficult for government to slash it down, was done in 2015, which to me, I supported it.
Right.
That one, I won't condemn it.
Okay.
Because we're accruing debt, whether NDC and PP, for the same Ghanaians to bear. 3, most of the taxes on the fuel today, who put them on? Isn't the NDC government? So if we
why do we keep playing this bit about who slapped which taxes on what? The ordinary people, we vote leaders into power to impact these issues. It doesn't matter who did what in the past and why.
It matters when others who cause it go other side of the river and say that we have dirtied it. I understand your point perfectly. I agree with you. If MPP, NDC can be honest, because the two of us have caused this. When NDC is in government, we will pay gallons. Hey, when MPP is in government, they will pay gallon. If MPP and NDC can define a new point of convergence,
right,
and there are certain selected items in our society, we agree and be honest, the two of us all should be blamed. I'm sure a time may come, ordinary man or the Ghanaian, whatever, will no longer blame NDC or MPP. But when we are in government, they are blaming us. When they were in government, we're blaming them. You understand what I'm saying? That politics of conspiracy, that politics of deception and lies, blame game. If MPP and DC, we don't sincerely stop and be honest with you, this country will be thrown into jeopardy.
Well, so a quick one on this. I'll allow you, but I don't want to forget. I don't want him to get away with this point. So the price stabilization levy, what is happening to it? And the other bit about the fact that the $105, the highest it has reached in recent times per barrel, and yes, in 7 years. No, I'm saying it has reached that point in 7 years. The last I checked, it had come down to $101. We are also benefiting from that because we produce oil, maybe not as massive a producer as Nigeria. Just look at those two angles. The price stabilization levy, which we are not using for purpose, and the fact that we are benefiting as well. Can't we use that to cushion ordinary Ghanaians?
So what do we do? Well, we are not using that for purpose. You are saying that for a fact that you know. Please.
Do you know anything to the contrary?
No, I'm coming. It's good, but we should be specific. What are we using for that is not fit for purpose. We have a specific reason we set that up. We are not using it in the first place. Why do we make statements out of arbitrariness as a country?
What
all of us. Let me ask you. The money we get because we produce oil, do you know how much it is? Against how much we are supposed to expend in this same oil sector? I mean, sometimes let's also be a bit...
so as you make these statements, don't make them in a vacuum. Be specific about
just
what
as you
exactly,
made yours. No, you made your statement
about what exactly you want to say.
You are saying that we are not using stabilization fund for a purpose.
But it is true.
So vacuum, tell me, how are we using? Where are we channeling?
We're channeling it into other things.
Like what? I agree with you. You say I shouldn't make a statement.
We have. So here's my point.
Please.
Whether you use this for infrastructure. Please. No. Hold on. Stephen Amoah. Whether you use this for infrastructure or education or whatever it is, the point is, if you say free SHS, for example, you know we're going to allocate funds for free SHS. And we do in our national budgets. You can't tell me that you're going to use the price stabilization levy to do other things which are not what, because mind you, Stephen Amoah, mind you, it may not directly impact me when it comes to free SHS directly. Education, holistically, wonderful thing. But I may not have children. I may not have, it may not. No. I'm facing bread and butter matters. No. If I don't have children, if I don't have people specifically who are benefiting from this in terms of my pocket, I would want to get the stabilization levy so that when it comes to fuel products, I'll benefit directly from there.
It's propaganda.
What is propaganda about it? I'm telling you what I'm feeling, and you're telling me that is propaganda.
What you're saying is propaganda.
What is propaganda about it?
How you benefit from free SHS?
What is propagandist?
Because propaganda. It's not you being whatever it is. Because propaganda people have been here, and probably you are being bought into it.
No. Stephen Amma, no. Hold it right. No, hold it right there.
Unless you want to bully me because it's your show.
No, but
allow me to also
did you listen to what you just said?
Said the what?
That may be propagandist, and I have also bought into it. I take exception.
But let me ask you.
I would humbly request that you take that back. To suggest that maybe I'm being propagandist.
But let me also can I also speak? Go
ahead.
This issue about this policy does not put money in my pocket. Where on this earth do you talk about this? Where? Which policy? Tell me any 5 policies that you're expecting that will put money directly into your pocket. Please, let's be honest. Education and health are the key functions of any serious country which wants to attain long-term economic growth and stability.
Did I dispute that?
I'm coming.
I didn't dispute
I'm coming too. We have about 100,000 young ones who would have been home every year. Do you know what would have happened in the area of security? Already we have issues.
You're not getting...
That would have affected your life.
That is where you are missing the point.
You're saying that it doesn't affect
I am not saying that. I never said that. That's why I said in a broader sense, it affects everybody in the country. If we have a more intellectual Ghanaian, our country's fortunes would be better. It is proven that any country that has a high educational, level also sees development in other areas, even in terms of the economy. I'm not disputing that. But I'm saying that at some point, you must realize that the ordinary Ghanaian will be looking at his or her own pocket. And while there are mechanisms to deal with the broader issues...
Ordinary Ghanaian child is having school free. Won't the money be in the pocket of the parent?
I still think you're missing my point. But I'm saying that the price stabilization is there for a reason. Yes, let's use it for that reason. But let me bring in
the ordinary man that you're talking about. If the child has access to education free, won't the parent be saving money in the pocket? The ordinary, the so-called...
Does that directly impact me? Does that directly impact me?
But indirectly impact you. No policy in any country would directly impact everybody along the social stratification.
I never said it would. I'm simply saying that in this specific instance, if we were to work on the price stabilization levy, it would help me as an individual, because when it comes to the raft of taxes, not everyone benefits and not everyone is even affected by some of them.
All over the world, policies do not affect everyone at the same measure, directly or whatever.
We can go on with this forever.
Which policy? Policies that will affect everyone.
So oil prices have now turned into a raft of measures. But do you agree? Let's start from this premise. Do you agree that the price stabilization levy should be used for its specific purpose and maybe weaned from some of the other things we've seen?
I was beginning to think that I should have stayed home and just enjoyed the banter that was going on.
Al-Hassan, don't go there. Don't start on that note.
But say you're giving him the leeway.
You see, first of all, Stephen Amma says that for 7 years now, we have not had to pay over $100 for a barrel of crude, which is correct. But then 7 years ago when we did, wasn't it said to be Mohammed's fault? I'm sure it was. Even though then we paid less.
Yeah, which is true. And
can I finish? Even though then we paid less than we are paying today. When it was $100, then we're paying less at the pump than we are paying now. It didn't stop anybody from...
There was no deregulation.
Secondly...
There was no deregulation.
Secondly...
Who did it?
Secondly, he just spoke about deregulation. He just spoke about deregulations. And then he said that it was introduced in 2015, which he supports.
Which I support.
Which he supports.
Yes. So don't use it against another government.
Can I finish, please? Can you just become?
Dr. Anwar, just allow Al-Hassan.
This is going to be a clean sheet. This is going to be a clean sheet.
I've given you the first chance. You've spoken and spoken. I'm allowing him to speak.
You bantered me.
All right.
Engage me.
I pledge.
Speak.
I pledge
as your guest.
I pledge.
And you allow him to speak.
I pledge in your subsequent submissions not to interfere. Is that okay?
I'll take it like that.
I shall do exactly that. So please also be fair to him and don't interfere.
So he talks about deregulation, and he says that it was introduced in 2015, which he supports. But then he speaks of taxes and argues that the NDC has put most of the taxes that are currently on fuel on the final price, which is a palpable falsehood in the first place. Secondly, he didn't indicate that he supports that or not. Because if you don't, and you think the NDC should be blamed for putting more taxes, assuming it is true that the NDC has put more taxes on it, and you are in power, what do? You take it off. Is that not it? If you think the NDC should be blamed for putting more taxes, assuming your argument is true, that the NDC put more taxes on it, and you are in power, and you see that the more taxes are affecting the Ghanaians, what's the reasonable thing to do? As for the the deregulation, I cannot say remove it because you have considered that you support that one. So why are you not speaking to the taxes too? Do you support, assuming that the NDC put the taxes on it, and you want to blame the NDC for putting the taxes on it, then remove it so that we don't blame you. But if you are going to apportion blame, then just remove it. Moving forward, he talks about price stabilization, Levy. I mean, you raise a very important issue of price stabilization. Why was it introduced? It was introduced so that consumers could enjoy a certain cushion or support when prices on the international market get out of hand. And this was as a result of our experience when the prices went to over 100, when we did not expect it. So when the prices started coming down, a proactive government, a reasonable government, thought that, look, let's take advantage of the windfall so that when it goes up, like it is going now, when you didn't predict it, you will have a certain buffer.
Exactly.
So that the people will not have to endure the effect of the deregulation, of passing it on. This government...
It's something most people complain about because fuel prices are always... It appears even when there are decrements in the international market, we are pegged at a certain level, so but it only goes up.
That was why the price stabilization levy was introduced, so that at least when...
And this has nothing to do with their administration. It's general.
It's about policy.
I mean, it's about them and you.
Can I finish? It's about policy. It's about policy. So that was the policy that was introduced. According to ASEP last year, since the introduction of the price stabilization levy in 2015, we had made, or the MPA had accrued to itself over 1.25 billion Ghana cedis. 1.25 billion Ghana cedis. The question is, what did we use that money for? What have we used that money for since? Because all government has done in the past was to zero rate the price stabilization levy for just 3 months. Zero rating meant that they were no longer charging the price stabilization levy. It was no longer included in the price build-up for that period.
Right.
But it did not, and so it did not add to the increment that Ghanaians suffered within that 3-month period. But the 1.25 billion could have been used or should have been used because that was the import of the levy to subsidize the prices. So the zero rating was not enough. Now, when government was pushed, we're told that part of that 1.25 billion was used to subsidize premix.
Yeah.
Now, when pushed to show the numbers, only about half of the 1.25 was used to subsidize premix. So the question we are asking is, what has happened to the accrued funds from the price stabilization levy? Yes, the NDC may have introduced the price stabilization levy in 2015, but the NDC did not have the benefit of it. Maybe if the NDC had been in office, we would not be where we are. Because the NDC foresaw the problem that prices can get out of hand when, unexpected invasion of Ukraine and others happen. And so you introduce a levy like that, that will accrue funds for you to use in times of war, like we are experiencing now. So clearly, we are not getting value for even the taxes that were put on it. Maybe because those who are currently managing it do not understand the reason for which those taxes.
Let me ask you a point.
They are rather misapplying,
so
you know, the revenue that are coming from that.
A raft of taxes on our petroleum, and some have said, for example, suggested that if the government is not able to get its way when it comes to the e-levy, there's an alternative. They could slap even more taxes on petroleum products, which some have also said would not be such a prudent decision to make, especially looking at the times, especially looking at the fact that we're in day 5 of the Russo-Ukrainian war and things are still very uncertain in terms of global oil prices. But in the midst of all of that, what would a future NDC administration, if you assume the reins of power, and I always like doing this because then it is good to be able to look back and say, Alassane Suini, this is what you said on my show when you were in opposition. Now maybe you are in power. What are you doing about it? So the price stabilization levy, would an NDC administration, I mean, what is your thinking on it? Would you do anything different? The number of taxes we have slapped on our petroleum products, which make things so expensive, what are the alternatives that you bring on board?
Well, I will not behave like Dr. Bawumia when he was running mate before 2016 general elections, when he was asked a similar question. And many of the NPP commentators did that. They went to talk about judgment that they will save, the corrupt money that what do you call it? The Auditor General and others are all saying are being wasted. I mean, that is a very, very easy way of dodging the question.
So what would your alternatives be?
But that's what they did to deceive the people of Ghana. I mean, the NDC even currently propose ideas about how to manage the economy. For example, on the issue of e-levy, we have not kicked against introducing a levy that will manage our electronic platforms, because clearly it is an area that is worth considering given the growth that we are experiencing in that area. All we are against is the levy being put on transactions, a number of transactions done, and then
because your manifesto, your last manifesto, page 99 of it captures something like that: e-transactions and at least some idea of taxing, electronically. So it's not something you as the NDC can run away from completely.
And I'm happy that the 4 states, I mean, they have been doing some good job about fact checking. When it was suggested that the NDC was going to introduce e-levy, I think they did some fact check and then revealed that it was completely different from what the NPP is doing. We, for example, have talked about targeting the multilateral agencies like Twitter, like Facebook, like Instagram, and then targeting merchants, people who are using those platforms to transact business, targeting them and seeing if you can introduce some form of a levy that will, generate income for government. Again, on the issue of price stabilization levy, I've already told you that the concept that was,
so the point to be made is you would look forward to using it for purpose.
Exactly. Because that was the reason why it was introduced. I mean, it wasn't just introduced so that government can accrue extra funds and perhaps rent expensive private jets to fly around. No, it was introduced so that times like this, it will be used for its purpose. But when it is not being used for its purpose, yet it is still being collected, you can only assume that it is used for partying, like having kinky parties and others. That is the only explanation you can give to it, especially when it is not even being accounted for. So as a party, as a social democratic party, like our General Secretary and others have always said, we are not a party that is against taxes, but we are for taxes that will, help grow the economy and also create a certain level of equity where they have not, are catered for by those who are fortunate to have.
Hold it right there.
A uniform tax.
Let me bring Dr. Stephen Amoah into the conversation as well. I know you will have some quick reactions to what he said. I'll give you a minute to do that, and then I'll introduce the next question I have for you. So you react to what he said, and then
I think the picture here is simple. Used for purpose. He said, "Oh, you use it." They said yes. It's only when a woman has not married before then whatever she says, people can give it probably a thoughtful reasoning. NDC, they've ruled this country more than any fraternity. They were using money for purpose, monies accrued for purpose, NDC. Probably is the only social democratic party in Ghana today that has this tenacity. Tell me.
Which money was not used
for purpose? Please.
Which one was not used for purpose?
NDC, ask them. Even pro-poor policies.
Which money was not used for purpose? Don't jump. Which money was not used for purpose?
Please allow him.
Tell me any of them, NDC, whether kind or cash, pro-poor policy. Tell me any of the performance parameters in Ghana today.
Unbelievable.
That you can say that one NDC, even today that there's...
The NDC person is here, so I will not speak for him.
Unbelievable.
You know,
when there's ample opportunity...
You are Dr. Stephen Amoa. You are Dr. Stephen Amoa. You are talking about...
No, I was just prompting you that I don't want to talk
about... What I'm saying doesn't
not
necessarily mean you.
Right.
Dr. Stephen Amoa. I say you are Dr. Stephen Amoa, and you are talking about pro-poor policy of a government.
Let's be fair.
Really, what is your definition of a pro-poor policy?
Let him make his point.
What is your definition of a pro-poor policy? He's a doctor. He should not misinform those who have not had the chance of being a PhD. You are a doctor.
Also,
please respect the PhD.
Hold on.
Kind cash, kind means
pro-poor policy.
Leap. Pro-poor policy.
That's all.
FQ implementation.
Let him make it.
FQ implementation is a pro-poor policy.
Oh, good.
Free SHS is a pro-poor policy. National health insurance is a pro-poor policy. School feeding is a pro-poor policy. Which of them did
That's all.
Put that aside.
That's your understanding of what pro-poor policies are.
Boss, other than that, your program will get bad.
Should we be adding NAPCO as well? Because I
and you
is it not one?
So you think where he's
really?
And you're not stopping him. You will stop me.
Are you saying I'm not stopping?
No, you will stop me.
Al-Hassan.
I'm all right. I'm fine.
Al-Hassan.
Go on.
Al-Hassan.
So having spoken, you can cut me. You need to give me time to speak.
Let him make his point. I beg you.
Because
so that we can
move to
a discussion, a very good discussion on this. Before you proceed, please don your mask. I beg you.
What I'm saying is that money's used purposefully means use money to solve problems and provide utility and satisfaction for the people, especially the poor people in your country.
Right.
Normally, taxes are meant to provide a stand and spread satisfaction so that poor people along the social stratification can benefit.
Right.
They are social democrats. Which one did they implement? None of them. And he's asking me to define pro-poor policy. You go into our books if he doesn't understand them. Two, the economic management. Even today, that there is serious global crisis because of the disease we all know, except those who want to lie. The US and UK and all the giant economies are even suffering. About 90% of the economic indicators are better than NDC's time. 3, I have wrote here, infrastructure that they lie. Let NDC and PP provide at all times. Rawlins's time, Kofo's time, former President Mohammed's time, present President Nanado's time. Send your team to go and check. Even between Accra and Kumasi, NDC could not add even 1 kilometer. Now, in Sawam to Apuja, we are done. So between the two, the one that uses Ghana's revenue productively, is not NDC. They cannot.
So you
cannot.
You fundamentally, let me just sneak in this bit. You fundamentally agree with the president when he, in these times when people are complaining about myriad things, he talks about his GDP growth being better than Mohammed's GDP growth. You think it's relevant?
Do you know why? The president accepts the fact. I accept, you accept that there's hardship. The hardship has been as a result of the fact that for about 22 months, productivity has been uncontrollably impaired, which we agree. So there's hardship. Even now, some state workers, public service and civil service workers are being paid, instead of doing 24 days out of the month, they do half because they go 2 weeks and they jump because of the COVID. But they are paid. We know all this. But because of the way my brothers such as Suhini and Co are talking, the president said that if that is the case, my economic management has been better. Interest rate has been reduced from almost 40% to 21%. Policy rate from 25.5% to about 12-14%. Check all those treasury bills from 22.5 to now about 12 or 14 for the same period. Even reserve, we have more import cover than today. So what we are saying is that, yes, the economy has cost us in terms of our debt to GDP. GDP was not growing, which is the denominator, and that one you cannot blame the government. We are better in managing the economy than them. Generating revenue, we are proving to Ghanaians that poor policies, infrastructure, economic management, we are better than them. Okay. The facts are there. They take money. What did they do? Can you compare Okada to free school? Can you compare Okada? Even they don't have sound and efficient policies. What they know is propaganda management. They can lie, they can deceive people.
Let me ask you.
What kind of propaganda?
Let me put to you something that definitely
PhD man should define social intervention policy. I think this is how can it's below the belt. Right. What I'm trying to say is that we have hardship. NDC MPP, some of the things we use for politics, just which I agree with him, that when they increase taxes, we did the same, 100%. And I made it prior to that. We should stop these things.
All right.
As two major parties.
So let's hold it right there. And I agree with you that
one is better.
I mean, but
so remarkably
15%. The latest transport fare hike, 15%, and the transport unions have told us bluntly that no, I'm talking about the fuel price increments and then the transport fare hikes, 15%.
And then the NAPCO. You said NAPCO.
No, I was referring to NAPCO. You were talking about social intervention, and I was saying that maybe NAPCO as well. You should be adding that because that is another intervention. Even if you look at it, mopping up in terms of unemployment and all of that.
That cannot be. Of course, it could be some sort of.
I know technically it is not directly in that. I was just adding to the.
Those guys were home for about 4 years. You remember, and they formed. Graduate Unemployment Association.
Let's come back to
we need that to fill
15% transport fare increment in recent times. There have been threats by some of them that if there's another increment, maybe even up to about 10%, they will increase by another 5%. Yesterday, we went round some stations. My colleague Mapito Sibidi went round. A lot of people were reacting to some of these developments. And then we are hit with, and we've had the UTAG and all those strikes. Then the teacher unions come through as early as recently as yesterday with another statement, the 24th of February, actually. I'm talking about NAT, TEU, the NAGRAD, and the CCTGH, talking about the fact that they want COLA, cost of living allowance. And it's interesting, COLA, the way they put it, that times are hard, they are struggling, members are struggling, and all of that. How exactly are we, if I were to ask you, because we don't have the e-levy yet, right? We've still not gone to Parliament on that. If I were to ask you realistically, how do we deal with these issues? What would you say? On the back of the fact that Ken Ofori-Atta has told us there's practically no money in the kitty. You have genuine reasons, yes, but we don't have money to sort you out. What do we do in the interim? What do we do?
I think in the interim, we should find a way of redefining a new cordiality between us and those who are pushing home for these new concessions. Because practically, they need them. You understand what I'm saying? I mean, it's something that they are not saying out of the blues or arbitrariness. You see the salaries of lecturers, professors, doctors, they are not good enough to really meet the confronting challenges of the economy today. It is a fact. Those who are asking for cost of living, they are all right. But the point is that we call something timeliness.
Right.
And then the prevailing challenges all over the world, including Ghana. So there should be some defined reasonabilities. If I were the finance minister, what I would have done was to sit down with them, agree on some sort of figures, and then ask them to give me some grace period. It could be even 6 months' time, but once things are okay, we do back pay. I'm sure they will understand.
I think this is an argument that UTAG, for example, has said that if we are going to do certain things,
I think if we do that,
then we can.
2, I think this is the time. The government has done well cutting by 20%, but we can cut more. There are other areas. In fact, I want to be blunt here.
You mean in terms of the budget expenditure cuts?
Now, me, in my position, if I had my discretion, some state institutions, deputies, I'll scrap them instantly.
So we can do more when it comes to ministerial appointments, and some of them must go.
I will sit down and review the task that is in place and scrap, because some of them, Not that they are working or they are not working. The work there and the labor force required in terms of size and skill component, I think we need to scrap them.
So in principle, you agree with those who say that we can cut down on the numbers in terms of ministers? No, I just want you, in principle, you agree that in terms of our ministerial pool, we can cut down?
Listen, what I'm saying that, yes, in some of the deputies, especially the state agencies, the productive centers, the deputies, that's two.
Special initiatives
I think instantly, even later on we can restore all this if things are okay. But now, I think instantly, all land cruisers used by state, not the MP like him that we are paying ours. Instantly, they should pack. When they are moving outside Greater Accra or your region, you use small car.
Okay.
There are issues that we can take instantly, even to restore the dwindling goodwill and confidence of Ghanaians in us.
Right.
Some of these things, but ideally, the economy has not been mismanaged the way people are lying. It's not true.
All right.
But the prevailing circumstance is actually forcing the economy to have the turbulent nature we are talking. It's a fact.
Okay.
NDC, PFP, whatever, couldn't have done better than we are doing. That is a fact. But
we don't know that for a fact because we don't have any other party in position. No. I mean, realistically.
So let me answer you.
You know that what you're doing is hypothetical.
But let me answer you. When they had not been impaired productive for 2 months, about 22 months, when this thing had not happened, they left our GDP about 3.2 or 3.4. Interest rate went to about 40%.
But they also had a high in 2014 of 8 point something.
No. What did they left for us? Don't talk about because.
But if you want to compare figures, then also look at the best that they did compared to your best.
No. What we took over. If you're talking about what we took over, you can't say that once upon a time this person did this. What did they give to us? What we took over?
What did you inherit? Point made. So quick reactions, Hassan.
Here's a quick one. I mean, first of all, I see a clear misunderstanding of what socialism is with the NPP, and so it manifests in even what they implement as.
You're going back to the pro-poor policy.
I mean, those are reactions.
Okay. Are you define it?
No. I just wanted to be clear that was what you were referring to.
Yeah. So they have a misconception of what social intervention policies are. For example, FQ program was in the 1992 Constitution, to be introduced within 10 years.
Will I speak again?
To be introduced within 10 years.
Not on this, because I want us to talk about the
after the introduction of the 1992 Constitution. The NDC began the processes of implementing it, but lost power by 2000. That was a 10-year period, and then they introduced it, because it was to be introduced within 10 years after the coming into force of the 1992 Constitution. When they introduced it, the NDC came back and saw the gaps in it. For example, the NDC had to eliminate schools under trees. Do you remember that policy?
But there still are schools under trees.
I know. So but what is the use of introducing a free compulsory education when there is no facility to educate the people?
That's not true.
I'm talking about a misconception of introducing pro-poor policies. That is why for them, once they tick the box and do the announcement, then it is done. The NDC introduced a free uniform policy and the sandals and all of that. Then, when it comes to national health insurance, again, the misunderstanding of pro-poor policy, the NDC piloted it across the country, and they cannot disagree with that.
It's
in
not
fact,
true.
What's the name?
Not true.
Former President Kufuor's younger brother. Ade Kufuor was the ranking member on health when he was member of parliament before 2000 and spoke against the piloting of the national health insurance.
Never true.
Look, I have the documents here. I can show to you in the Damango area when they were implemented. I can show you.
Maybe the parliamentary Hansards would.
And the parliamentary Hansards will bear me out. I'm telling you, the facts are
on this matter.
Apart from that, because again, the misunderstanding and misconception of what social intervention is, when they had the opportunity after the NDC lost the 2000 election to implement the national health insurance scheme, everybody knows that they introduced a mutual health scheme. So, for example, if you registered in Osu, and you fell sick in Medina, you could not access free healthcare in Medina. That was the health insurance they introduced. Again, it took the NDC with the understanding of what a social intervention policy is meant to be, to make it national. So that when you have your card and registered in Osu, and you fall sick in Wa, you can still use your card in Wa to access free health. Because they have a complete misunderstanding of what social intervention policies are. You find the arguments that they make. Moving on to the economy. He says the GDP, whatever. I'm happy you pointed to him that indeed the NDC has the record of growing this economy, growing the GDP to the highest ever. If he speaks of what they inherited, what are they currently managing and how will they hand it over? What guarantee do they have that the current GDP is what they will hand over? And so your point is valid, that if the NDC ever raise it to its highest, if you are doing 3-point-something% now, it should not give you reason to beat your chest, especially when all the indicators show that you are going down the hill. Apart from that, what did they inherit? You asked that question. He asked that question, and then you said it was valid, and I agree it was valid. What did they inherit? At the time they inherited the economy, all the projections from the analysts, from the rating agencies showed that the economy was growing. The NDC had started, because you see, they are experiencing a crisis now. The NDC experienced similar crisis between 2013 and 2014.
I see.
And so there was a slump. I mean, that was when the oil prices went over 100.
Which oil?
That was when the single spine salary structure that we introduced wiped every revenue that we had. That was when we did not have 3 oil wells. That's when we were not getting more revenue from our ports because they were not expanded. We were not getting much revenue from our airports because we didn't have Terminal 3. So those were challenges the NDC was faced with at the time. The cocoa prices were going down. The gold prices were going down.
Are there not even greater challenges now? We're dealing with COVID. We're still dealing with a hostile economic
I said similar challenges.
Setup.
I said similar. I didn't say the same challenge. I said similar challenges. And that is why the economy was hit. But by the time the NDC handed over to them in 2016, we had started seeing the recovery. And no one can run away from that. In fact,
we had started seeing the recovery, yet when you went to the ballot, people soundly,
I don't contest that, but you cannot
your party out
you can't contest the fact. You can't contest the fact that we have started seeing the recovery. The experts, predicted even an 8-point-something GDP growth by 2017. EIU and others predicted that the economy in 2017 was going to grow by 8% because of the work they had seen the NDC doing to recover the economy. So if you inherited the economy by 20, can I finish? If you inherited the economy by 2017,
do wrap on that because this is just a
and then you maintain that projection and you got 8%. Today, what are you doing? Faced with similar challenges, what are you posting? What results are you posting? You are posting the worst debt ever. Worst. In the history of this country, no government has ever borrowed like this government has borrowed.
It's not true.
And no government has also earned revenue, internal revenue, like this government has earned. What do they have to show? You are also posting the worst rating ever from the international agencies. Fitch, S&P, Moody's, worst ever.
When it comes to Moody's and S&P, we have wandered in that territory before. You can talk about when you talk about S&P and Fitch, we have waded in that territory before.
I'm saying worst
when
ever.
it comes to Moody's, the CAA one, yes, that I would give you something.
No. It is the worst. Even Moody's is the worst.
We can talk about the worst.
Even Moody's is the worst.
But I think.
Can I just wrap on that? Even Moody's is the worst. Yes, even Moody's is the worst. S&P is the worst. Go check the rating agents. It's the worst we have ever had. Okay. Fitch is the worst we have ever had.
Right.
And exchange rate, as we speak, is the worst we are having. In fact, our city is worst in Africa.
We're getting but to be fair, we may be talking about the worst, but at a point in time, we've been the best in Africa. You know that.
But we are the worst in Africa.
We have been the best in Africa. Our currency, the same Ghanaian city, Ghana city that we are talking about, has been the best at a point. So yes, we can talk about the fact that now it is the worst performing.
That's what we are talking about now.
But
are we not
let's not lose sight of the fact that we've also been the best before. Just to say that, especially in the first few months of
this argument reminds me. This argument reminds me of the GDP growth. If you say the NDC handed over the West, so should we argue that we have been the best?
Point made. I think this message on Facebook is a bit reflective of how I feel and maybe the generality of Ghanaians. Caleb says, we have no interest in party. All we want is a good living standard for the ordinary Ghanaian. Even some Ghanaians prefer to die in Ukraine. He says, I don't subscribe to that. Then come back to this country. Take away the unnecessary taxes on the fuel. Get back at least 65% of shares on all public production sectors that we are receiving just 10% for. And this would have to do with the royalties we are getting from our minerals, gold and the rest, the oil fields, cocoa and more. Get the Tema oil refinery operational. This seems to me like very, what's the word? It's very rational thinking. I don't know, but these things are possible, yet from both of your sides, we're not seeing these. But let's quickly get into, no more reactions, else we'll keep going back to that. We are getting into the conversation about...
We give me like 5 minutes. I use 30 seconds to do the move on. I beg you.
So let's introduce
So I'm giving you the new topic, sure. And you can use those 30 seconds, and I'll be watching because time is ticking.
1 minute, sorry.
Let's talk about the cedi being the worst performing currency in Africa, dropping by 7.6% to the dollar just within this year. Even the dollar C is ahead of us, the naira is ahead of us, not to talk about other more, robust currencies. Okay. Your reaction?
Boss, just before then, let me tell you, NDC never started any pilot thing on. It was Roman Catholic. That started somewhere around in Kransa, Techiman.
Which project are you speaking of?
No, National Health Insurance.
Right, okay.
If they started, how come that they walked out of Parliament while we're implementing it? This is a lie. 2, FKIP is in the Constitution that within, when we say within, it means the day of passing the thing, up to 10 years, within, should be able to do it. They were in power for 8 years, they could not implement. 8 good years, they could not. It's not 10 years time, it's within. That thing we have to establish.
But to also be fair, you would say that 8 years is still within 10 years,
but they could not do it.
Given further,
no, but they could not do it.
I mean, just to be fair, I know you would have made that argument.
But what I'm saying, if they say within 10 years you should be able to do it, and you spend 80% out of the time, you couldn't do it. 80%.
Okay. So point
in terms of 3, please, I beg you, next time I'll bring the schools Kofor build. And the trees.
You always say that.
No, I beg you. I'll send you all the list. NDC should bring yes. How can you say you eliminated schools and the trees? If you build a school, you say you eliminated, and others build more than you did. These are all proper. You see the NDC, the communist inferior tactics, the propaganda.
Let's move away from the communist inferior tactics. Our reality is the cedi is the worst performing currency.
The last one is the cedi, the exchange rate. It's not the worst in our country in terms of increment. That's what you talk about, percentage increase. NDC,
which one are you talking of? Is it the 7.6% within this year or what?
No, I'm saying that what they are talking about. They inherited 1.1 and they left 4.20 to us. We have gotten it to say even 7. The difference they added was 281%. We have added 66.
Dr. Amwa, let's get to the substantive.
So even with that, they have done worse. You should go and check the calculations. Then coming back to the currency issue, boss, it's one of the things in our country, whether we like it or not. Both MPP and DC have done this country a great deal of disservice. We don't speak the truth. The problem with the currency now and in the past and in the future, if we don't change, check we here, check this room, check myself, check you. The most critical factor or the commonest factor to consider is demand and supply.
The dollarization of our
economy. No matter what is happening, everything I'm wearing here, everything I'm using, 99% we imported. Yours too. It will never ever be better. There has never been anywhere in the world a short-term approach to solving currencies will be solved. And that's what MPP and this will be doing, so that we get syndicated loan. Oh, things are okay. Sometimes the dollar as well will be doing bad and we are doing well, so we're okay. Sometimes we'll be doing weak and we are doing better. These are all ad hoc and short-term approaches that are not properly structured. Until this country...
So this just comes to mind. Does that mean that you are disagreeing, for example, with the person in charge of the economic management team, the vice president, with that statement he made back then about the fundamentals being weak?
I don't know what you're talking about.
And the exchange rate exposing you?
I cannot connect that to the context you spoke. I'm being very honest before me and my God. That these issues, people do propaganda with context and extracts. I really understand the context.
But it was clear what he said, exchange rate.
Oh, I'm saying that I don't know what he meant and the context and the sentence. Not I'm lying. This is me. You can take that I'm lying. But I am addressing the challenge today.
He doesn't know, spare him.
I'm addressing the challenge and providing solutions and tell Ghanaians that it is MPP and DC, just that if you will. When they are in power, we say, hey. When we are in power, they say, hey. There's nowhere in the world that if we don't use long-term structured approach to solving this issue, where we can select, why do we?
So in the short term, what do we do? I accept what you're saying, and I agree with it, because long term would have to. Production. Look at the fact that we're importing some of the most basic things. It will not change overnight.
Why should we import fruit juice?
It will not change overnight. You get it? So I know that is long term, but I'm saying that in the short term, what do we do?
No, short term, what maybe the government has to do is like Bank of Ghana. They can help us make our market a bit more liquid with dollars. You understand what I'm saying? I mean,
does that not still feed into the dollarization of our economy?
No. It depends. If we are okay, we have enough dollars in our country, and we are not asking or demanding more. You understand what I'm saying? Or, for instance, if we can have an arrangement to have probably dollars in just like the syndicated loans during the cocoa. When it comes, normally our dollar stabilizes a bit. Issue with some sort of unnecessary importation of certain items, if we can quickly work on them in the short term, probably. But I'm saying that this dollar issue will go and come, MPP will come, NDC will come, CPP will come. The commonest thing to do is to sit down as a country and select items that we can produce them. They don't require complex value chains. Why do we import orange juice, mango juice, banana juice, pineapple juice? Why? As a country, you just squeeze them and add preservative. They are free juice. What we need is machine with high capacity and land. Why do we import them? You remember the time they used to even produce cotton stuff here. What we wear. Even with this.
But if we go back to Nkrumah, we had so many industries, from tomato to juice to boots to the rubber bits. That is historically. We shot ourselves in the foot.
Under whose regime did they collapse? Add that to it. Even with the TV electronics.
But under whose regime? The military.
Don't let us.
The military came here, and then it had so many regimes following, and all of them did the same thing. I'm not accusing any specific. I'm merely saying that as a people, we've not done justice to our own selves.
I agree. Perfect. Right. But what I'm saying is that even with these complex things, do you know Ghana what we could have done? Instead of importing the complete value chain, if you import value chain,
of course,
pay for labor there.
Which is why the automobiles, we wanted them to come to the country, for example.
So even we can do assembling. Once you are doing assembly in Ghana, you cut down the amount of dollars you used to go and bring them. 2, you create jobs for your own people. You bring part of the value chains in Ghana.
Right.
So we should sit down as a country, redesign and define a complete value chain that probably for the next 3-4 years' time, our CD can be perpetually very competitive. If not, and this will do politics.
Give me 30 seconds on this.
Okay, sure.
30 seconds.
Sure.
I want you to be very concise. When the Ghana cedi was the best performing currency, I heard a lot of party communicators and others say, we're doing it and we are there. Now the Ghana cedi, interestingly, is the worst performing in Africa. Are you going to lay the blame at the doorstep of, the finance minister or the economic management team, or what are we not getting right? Okay. Where should we lay the blame?
Let me tell you, me and you, if we are fighting, now the cedi and the foreign currencies are fighting. Let's take it constantly. 2 or 3 things can happen. Either you are stronger at a point in time, which is making me weak no matter what I do, or I'm weaker at a point in time, which you cannot do anything about it. Right. These are. Then the third scenario.
So it may not necessarily be that I'm so strong, but you are weak, and so it's affecting.
Yes. And it can be the other way. The third scenario is that it also could mean, which is where I have my problem now. You have not been training for a long time. If I want to fight my brother Suhini, which God forbid, it will never happen. Maybe 4 or 5 years time, and I start jamming, I start running, I build my muscles, the way my heart breathes, everything. It will be easier for me to constantly engage in either draw or beat him. Or even if you beat me, you will see that we all fought. This is what MPP, NDC, we have not done. So even if the dollar city is doing well, I cannot attribute to the fact that one government is doing well or not.
All right, thank you.
Maybe on the international market, things are weak or something in the short term happen. But I beg whoever is in government today and whoever will come tomorrow and whatever, that as a country, there are basic items, because one's preference for goods of the same liquidity and risk factors are demanded by Ghanaians as percentage such as 90, 80, will forever perpetually be in this situation.
All right.
No matter what happens.
Al-Hassan, let me have your take on this.
We import everything.
In terms of where we are now, what does this really mean? Worst performing currency in Africa. And do you agree with him in terms of his short and long-term solutions to this problem?
Well, what it means is that after many years of denying the obvious, or let me say many months, that the economy is at ICU.
In the intensive care unit.
Yeah. After many months.
Never do professional. Everything is politics.
So can't you keep quiet?
No, but let's do.
Gentlemen,
let's do some realistic discussion.
You've noticed, Dr. Kama,
everything.
You've noticed that. No. Hold on.
Honestly,
Hold on, let me do this. Let me do this.
That Stephen Amwa of all people,
gentlemen,
say I do politics.
Everything is politics.
You of all.
Everything you start with.
What did you do here that was in politics?
I am in charge here. Dr. Amwa.
I am shocked. You.
Dr. Amwa.
At heart and stop.
What were you doing?
Please comport yourself.
What were you doing? Why are you here?
Hold on.
Are you here representing the church?
Hold on.
Are you representing the church?
Gentlemen,
are you representing the church? And what were you doing?
If he is going to do politics, I would regulate, but it is his. He has the right to do so, which you do sometimes. I mean, let's be fair.
You said sometimes. He does always.
So
he does always.
You are destroying.
When you started, you didn't want any interjections.
Go on with the propaganda. Go on.
You didn't want any interjections.
They are ready to listen to the propaganda. Go ahead.
Go ahead, Al-Hassan.
Well, you can call it whatever. But I'm sure the people who have been listening to us since this show started know who is making logical arguments and who is doing propaganda. I'm sure they know.
Interest rates are better
now,
Treasury bills better.
I'm saying that it is good.
Reserve better.
It is good.
Policy rate better. So the economy couldn't be at ICU. It's not true. Back down with facts and figures.
Can you do to
Thank
him
you. I won't talk again. I'm done.
I'm done. Go ahead, Al-Hassan.
Sorry, bro. We are brothers.
But
just
the point I seek to make is that going by Dr. Baumia's logic, it is refreshing, even if they don't admit it to us, to finally come to a point where we can say that indeed our economy was in ICU, even though officialdom was denying it. What is the Dr. Baumia's logic? When the fundamentals are weak, the exchange rate will expose you. So after long months of denial, it is clear that the exchange rate is exposing the propaganda that has been built around the strength or weakness of our economy. That aside, because he used some 1 minute to respond to an issue that he raised, I'll just speak about why the NDC walked out. Yes, I mean, it's within my time. When the National Health Insurance Levy was being passed, because we have young generations coming up, and sometimes the propaganda that they are fed with, they believe it. Go and check the Hansards, read the news, and you will find out that the NDC, led by the current speaker, Alban Bagwin, didn't walk out of Parliament when the act was going to be passed because they were opposed to a national health insurance scheme. They were opposed to the structure, that is the mutual health that they were seeking to introduce, and again the what is it called, workers' money, the SNIT contributions that was going to be used as a seed capital wasn't clear. So it was not about the scheme, but it was the manner. It wasn't about the form. It wasn't the scheme. It was the manner, and they opposed the way they were going to do it because they had superior ideas. And the NDC, when it came into power in 2009, actually demonstrated that their idea of the National Health Insurance Scheme was better by making it national. No one will argue with that.
I think
it was better
to that point. Right.
Then on the way forward, as far as the CD is concerned, I agree with you. I mean, many people even spoke about the need for us to have redenominated our CD in 2008. By 2007, the CD, according to
even
the
after
data,
the initial one
yes,
that we did.
Yes. I mean, the data showed that by 2007, it was, depreciating by about 5%. And when we redenominated in the latter part of 2007, by 2008, it had depreciated by 13% plus. And it has been depreciating since. Now, what are some of the reasons? I agree with him when he says that we have a high appetite as a people for imports.
What is not produced here.
What is not produced here. But you see, what again the current picture exposes is the propaganda of this government also. The propaganda of 1D1F. Because if 1D1F was supposed to solve that problem of low production in this country, if it was successful today, we will not be here still complaining that we are importing too much. Now, what I recall that governments in the past have tried to do, like was to invest in production, local production, without slogans and without propaganda. So, for example, you had the Commander Sugar Factory, you had EDEF, that was there to support these, local companies without the sloganeering, so that they could increase their production. The pharmaceutical companies were supported to increase their production. If we had cut out the politics and stayed focused on those programs without slogans, without,
So I feel the vibe I get is that from both your ends, we should be cutting down a lot on the politics, whether it's about the exchange rate, it's about the fuel prices, it's about myriad things we're doing here.
Suddenly.
We should be cutting down on the politics, NDC and MPP, so that the ordinary Ghanaian, because now the ordinary Ghanaian, you see what the message Caleb sent, and that is how we don't care exactly who is in power. Just deliver to us what you promise, and that is the problem with both of you. But let's wrap the conversation.
We should not
on this.
We should not seek to cut the we will not succeed in cutting the politics if we are not honest and truthful.
Let's wrap
ourselves
on this point. The Solidaire Ghana lectures, you followed it, and more coup talk, so to speak. Professor Atuguba, learned, lawyer, and of course, Dean of the Faculty of Law, saying if we do not act quickly, we may have a coup on our hands, that Ghana is radically broke, and a broke economy is one of the justifications for all coup d'etats. Al Hassan, I'll give you the first bite on that. No worries, you have enough time to share your thoughts. I'm giving you 2 minutes on that, 2 minutes for you as well, and then I'll take your final thoughts.
Well, I think that Professor Raymond Atuguba, as usual, was spot on. He's
spot on in coup talk?
On his analysis of the current situation in the country. He's never been a man afraid to speak his mind about, issues of governance. He says it as it is, in a very cool, calm manner, but, very pointedly, and I admire him for that. I actually listened to part of it, and he was right. Look, today in this country, I made a statement on the floor of the House last week. It is, and I said it in that statement, that it is clear today that unemployment is at an all-time high, almost close to the pre-independence figures. Post-independence figures, almost close to that. We are talking about youth unemployment of about 19%. When post-independence, it was about 20%. Despondency, therefore, is at an all-time high.
So you feel it is justified, this kind of rhetoric, it is justified?
Can I finish? Despondency is at an all-time high. And clearly, Stephen Amwa here has admitted, and many people have said the same thing, that the NDC and the NPP, in the minds of the Ghanaians, are the problem. I think you have also, in other words, suggested same. When despondency is at an all-time high, it tells you that the population is looking for hope. They are looking for a savior, whether in the form of a political party or in the form of a person.
You have about 30 seconds left.
And that is what. So let me utilize.
If your administration had been in power,
let me utilize. Let me utilize my 30 seconds well. So clearly, it tells you that the ingredients are there if care is not taken, and that was the caveat that he gave. Nobody wants a coup.
If we do not,
we must do everything that we can as a people to avoid a coup. But we must not be unmindful of the ingredients that
it's happened in our sub-region, so you cannot say we are mindful. I was just asking you a pointed question there. If your administration had been in power and someone had said this, how would you react? Would you react the same way you're reacting now?
Well, I don't think you'll believe me if I say yes.
But just tell me.
But my record shows that I am not.
Would it have been yes or no?
Of course. I mean,
right.
I wouldn't be unmindful of the threats that we face.
2 minutes.
I think those who are mentioning coup d'etat, they have a conspiracy game theory. There's nothing. The point is, we have so many performance parameters. I beg you, somebody like you that I trust so much. Definitely I'll disagree with some of you what you do, but Joy FM, everybody knows, a very professional platform. Why can't you list all the performance parameters MPP government took over? And how are they faring, each of them today? And the NDC, for 4 years, because of policy credibility, public sector, private sector, public service and civil service sectors, they put embargo on us. They could not employ. You remember? I'm coming.
With the propaganda.
Please, I'm coming.
I mean,
as I'm talking,
apart from good morning, good evening,
I've been
say anything
I've been in the same
there you go.
Parliament House on the floor that it has been indicated in Ahanta. He knows that about 100,000 teachers have been employed under Kufuor's government. He knows.
This guy say good morning, after good morning and good afternoon, everything you say is politics. And then you say that other people do politics.
Graduate unemployment under them. What are they talking about?
So your reaction, you have about a minute. Your core reaction to what?
The economy, the figures, about 90% are better than today.
Right.
Today we took over. 2, at least under Kufuor, a poor child from a bad home can access secondary school free. And you are saying that all this...
Hit the nail on the head in terms of what...
So can I ask you one question? UK, US, and all the places that because of the COVID, things have been bad economically. There should be coup d'etat. What the man is saying, it was a statement made out of arbitrariness and parochial interest of his group and himself. Ghana does not warrant a coup. Ghana is better than we took over. Of course, there's hardship. And the hardship is not the government.
It's only better for you.
Private sector had to sack over 40,000 people because of COVID. Can you say because of that there should be coup? Coup for what? Coup to kill people? Coup to destroy Ghana? See what is happening in Ukraine.
So is it wrong to draw that delineation? Hold on. Is it wrong to draw that delineation when in other countries, even neighboring countries, the economy has been part of why there have been some of these issues coming up?
Go to Burkina Faso and coup. They have war fashions. They've been doing that for so many years. Go to
in Burkina Faso,
please. They
mounted it on the back of terrorist groups and the failure of leadership to address that. But in other areas,
they have war fashions. No, they have war fashions. They fight like if my family and then Honorable Sui.
So the economy cannot be an issue.
No, but the economy today. Let me ask you, which of the economic indicators, if you list 10, about 8 better today. So why is he calling for coup? If I'm asking for...
Which are the indicators that are calling for a coup?
No.
Which are the indicators that are better?
GDP is not better.
Is the debt better?
Inflationary rate is not better.
Is the exchange rate better? Are people paying less for fuel? Are they paying less for water? Are they paying less for electricity?
So if world market...
Which one is better? Are they paying less for prices of food?
Ask him to let me talk.
Are they paying less... When you go to the market, are they paying less for food? What is better?
Alasan.
No, let's be honest. What is better?
So in 30 seconds.
What is better today in Ghana? What is better?
And say that price of a commodity which
what is better
somewhere because of that.
Dr. Baumia went to Malata market to shop. You should go back there and shop and tell us the prices.
Fuel price.
I am just an honorable member of parliament. He is a doctor.
We're done.
He went to Malamata to shop. Let him go back there and shop.
I'll still ask this question. How can you say that fuel price increase?
Which one is better?
Because of that, we should do queen.
Which one is better?
How can
is it the prices of food items?
No, how can
is it fuel? Is it
he said it right now.
Is it school fees?
No, he stated that. Go and listen.
Is it school fees? What is better?
And he's also stating
the fact that there are certain
I am also asking
what is better in this country today since we took over? What is better?
No, I'm asking you. You are a man of integrity. All the economic figures today are most of them not better than we took over.
So your point is basically the economic indicators
are better
because of where they are.
better.
Which economic? The rating agencies have never rated us so poorly.
About 40%.
I'm saying that with all of that, the rating agencies, they have never rated us so poorly.
Ghana will not tolerate any coup.
What kind of, don't bury your head in the sun.
Conspiracy game.
Let's face the reality. The people are suffering. But we do not want a coup in this country. But we must be careful
of their stomach
upon ourselves.
Family and group interests. They want to destroy. It's out of hate.
Yeah, because your family and group are enjoying.
Yes, it's
because your family and group are enjoying.
All right, gentlemen.
They hate other
so this is where
because your family and group are enjoying, everything is okay. Oh yes, everybody does.
Let's compare the
everybody does. Everybody does.
Go to my farm, see my project.
Oh, I have a go to my farm to and see. Go to my farm to and see.
Let's see how many people do you
I work hard.
How many do you pay?
Oh, God.
How many workers do you pay? I pay workers.
Thank you. Al-Hassan Suini is Member of Parliament for Tamale North. Dr. Stephen Amwa, please respond. In Shayasu constituency, please respond. In Shayasu constituency, are you in the house?
Everybody works hard. Everybody.
Dr. Amwa.
There are entrepreneurs out there who are struggling to pay their workers this month.
They hate other people.
So this is where we wrap the conversation. This is how we draw the curtains on our big stories. After the break, we tell you how to take care of your ear, nose, and throat. Please stay with us. Thank you for staying. Now, on the last leg of our conversation, we talk about World Hearing Day, which comes to us on Thursday, the 3rd day of March. Joining us for a very interesting conversation, though short, Major Emmanuel D. Nkonu. He's an audiologist. We also have Lieutenant Commander Michael Donko, also an audiologist and chairman of the Greater Accra ENT Nurses Group. Gentlemen, thank you so much for joining the conversation.
Thank you.
I'll start with you. What basically is the theme? I mean, first of all, World Hearing Day, is it a new thing? Is it a novelty? How long has it been around?
No, World Hearing Day has been around for quite some time.
Right.
And it's an annual event that that guides us to ensure that the celebration goes on successfully. After every celebration, we send reports to World Health Organization for them to put together reports and then disseminate to the various countries that took part in the World Hearing Day. So it's an event that has been on for a very long time.
And what's the theme for this year?
This was the main emphasis this year is on entertainment and policy. We have realized that, especially from last year's World Hearing Day, it was realized that hearing loss is virtually becoming a public health concern with a lot of young people minimum. By way of doing that, we are supposed to educate the public and also entertainers, especially club,
loud music and everything.
Yes. So we are supposed to educate the public for them to know how to help reduce, if not prevent completely, their hearing loss.
Right.
So we are supposed to educate the public on all this for people to know. Unfortunately, it looks like most people don't know about hearing loss, and it's true because hearing loss actually is a kind of deformity that people don't know.
You know, this brings to mind ads or something. It prompts you.
Yes.
I mean, you're approaching very high decibels and all of that. Sometimes you notice people crossing the street, and I had cause to do so was it yesterday or 2 days ago? And the person was totally oblivious to what was happening around him. So things we should take note of. And also it is known that about 1 billion young people affect the ears as I come to you. The Apiate incident, for example, the explosion and what happened in the aftermath comes to mind. But how can loud sounds affect people, their hearing and all of that?
Okay, thank you very much. Sorry. With regard to loud, when you look at the structure of the ear, there are a series of cells within the ear. Now, the ear itself is into twofold. We have something we call the cochlea and the semicircular canals. This control within the ear that picks information when sounds are transmitted to them. I mean, in most instances, we call them hair cells. So these are the hair cells that pick information. Now, a damage to these hair cells or overexposure to the hair cells causes the wear and tear. Now, the wear and tear of the hair cells result in hearing loss, which are, treatable. Now, with the irreversible ones, it leaves us with a permanent hearing loss.
Right.
And what is something associated with sound? Yes, diagnostically, there are certain frequencies to look at. And when those frequencies are confirmed, or they confirm the hearing
such hearing loss, what are some of the things we should be looking out for, Mike?
Beautiful. So for entertainers or for we as individuals, if I'm going to the nightclub, of course, I'm going to enjoy myself.
Right.
But once I get into the club, I should have on me a hearing plug or an ear plug. It's a very small device. You just squeeze it, harmful to your ear.
Right.
Like you mentioned earlier, we have applications that you just enter a club or an environment which has noise. You activate it, it tells you the amount of noise that is coming out in the environment. If that noise is not good for your hearing, it's two options. It's either you don't stay there.
Look very much like an, a headphone or something.
Like
they look like that.
Earpiece.
I've seen some people, plug them in and.
Some ones have a rubber at the tip.
Right.
So you just plug it in there and that's all.
And you're good to go.
And there are some that are for sale on the market. You get some and then you just put it in there.
Someone might be thinking, oh, aren't they expensive?
They are not.
Usually.
And you can also use, sometimes you see people using these big headphones. Some of them also have the ability to reduce the amount of sound that goes into the ear. It's quite unfortunate that people don't know, so they rather use it to listen to loud music instead of using it to reduce the amount of sound that goes into the ear that can cause hearing loss.
Right. So how is loudness measured? I know decibel levels and all of that, Emmanuel. And what do I do if I suspect I have
of a sound or the intensity is measured in decibel? So when you have a hearing loss, there's a need for us to actually measure it through a diagnostic way. Now, once you measure the hearing loss, as we said, the unit is in decibel. Now, when it comes to the different ranges, we call something, for the normal conversation that we have, the measurement is around 60 decibel. If I whisper into your ear, yes, that intensity level is around 30 decibel. Now, when you come to, we also advise that individual listening to sound should not listen to sound of over 80 decibels. They should always try to limit themselves below the 80 decibels. For instance, if you're having a safe listening at 80 decibels, you can listen to that safe sound for up to 40 hours per week. That's also okay. But any level beyond that,
right.
For instance, that at 90 decibels,
okay,
there's a calculation that we do. We are not supposed to listen to that for that 40 decibels.
Right.
We have to be listening to that.
So all of these are in there. Pardon my having to cut in, but basically we ought to take our hearing, it is crucial and we ought to look at it very well. Thank you, gentlemen, Emmanuel, Michael, for joining the conversation.